Good evening, you're watching World News Tonight on TVP World. I'm Aaron Darman. Poland's new right-wing president, Karol Nawrocki, is again demanding World War II reparations from Germany, despite the issue being effectively closed. Prime Minister Donald Tusk saying his country needs to understand the difference between an enemy and ally. More on that in just a moment. First, tonight's headlines. Allegations of Russia GPS jamming a flight with the EU's top brass on board. Moscow vows a new push in occupied Ukrainian territories. And the Polish businessman behind a viral hat-snatching moment at the US Open breaks his silence. On the 86th anniversary of the outbreak of World War II, Polish President Karol Nawrocki is reopening an appeal for Germany to pay reparations for the destruction it caused. There's one problem. The matter is legally regarded as moot, and his remarks repeat unsuccessful promises made by his predecessors. Natalia Komarov reports from Westerplatte.
On the 86th anniversary of the outbreak of World War II, Polish President Karol Nawrocki called for war reparations from Germany, arguing that, according to Christian values, any sin needs to be atoned for.
In order to build a partnership with our Western neighbor based on truth and good relations, we must finally resolve the issue of war reparations from the German state, which I, as the President of Poland, unequivocally demand for the common good and for our future. War reparations will not be an alternative to historical amnesia. Poland, as a frontline state, the most important country on NATO's eastern flank, needs justice, truth, and clear relations with Germany, but also reparations from the German state.
In 1953, the officials in Warsaw signed a document waiving any rights to future financial demands. Law and Justice, the opposition party behind President Nawrocki, has been reviving anti-German sentiments for a while now.
I swore I'd vote for peace if they secured reparations, but no transfer ever reached my family. They didn't even include the word reparations in the note to Germany. If the president manages to secure them, he'll get my vote. After all, he wouldn't deceive Poles, would he?
In contrast with the president, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk underlined the importance of alliances and friendships, warning that Poland must recognize who is the actual enemy.
We must be so strong, we must be so wise, we must be so united that no one, from any part of the world, will ever again think of attacking our homeland. We must be wise to understand where this great threat comes from today, and with it whom we should unite in the effort to defend Poland and the entire Western world. Our civilization, which is the civilization of freedom. Poland, Europe, NATO, our allies, this is the result of the lesson we learned from the loneliness of 1939.
A professor of history from the Jagiellonian University, Marcin Jarząbek, joined TVP World to speak about the dangers of using history for contemporary politics. He also noted that the people who call for reparations from Berlin rarely talk the same way about Moscow.
As a historian, I would say that using past history for contemporary political issues is dangerous, right? So may bring more harm than actually it matters. So we did a lot of reconciliation with Germany, not so much with Russia, in order to kind of not to forget, but to kind of overcome the past, which is obviously difficult and very tragic in many respects, especially in case of World War II.
There is one thing, however, that Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and President Nawrocki do agree on, and that is that Poland must do whatever it takes to avoid history repeating itself. Both officials underline that as a frontline state of the NATO alliance, Poland must heavily invest in its armed forces. From Gdańsk, for TVP World, Natalia Komarov.
Russia is being accused of disrupting the navigation system of a plane carrying European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. The suspected GPS interference happened over the weekend, delaying von der Leyen's arrival in southern Bulgaria. As Anastasia Yanchenko explains, the country's airspace has faced such incidents before.
EU Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen was on board a plane heading to the Bulgarian city of Plovdiv on Sunday when its electronic navigation equipment failed as it approached the airport for landing. This malfunction is suspected to have been caused by Russia.
We have received information from the Bulgarian authorities that they suspect that this was due to blatant interference by Russia.
The attack was severe enough to disable the jet's electronic navigation systems. The pilot had to rely on paper maps while navigating the airport in Bulgaria's second largest city. The incident occurred as von der Leyen flew from Poland to Bulgaria to meet its prime minister and tour an ammunition factory during her visit to EU frontline states.
The task of this operation was not the liquidation of Ursula von der Leyen. It was a political signal that they're watching, that they're controlling their movement.
Bulgarian air traffic services informed the Financial Times that this is not the first time interference by an unknown actor has occurred over Bulgarian territory.
Since February 2022, there has been a notable increase in jamming and recently spoofing occurrences. These interferences disrupt the accurate reception of GPS signals, leading to various operational challenges for aircraft and ground systems.
Bulgaria remains a key partner and a major supplier of weapons and artillery to Ukraine. More than 6,000 GPS jamming and spoofing incidents were recorded across the EU in June alone, according to intelligence reports. In response to the incidents and the threat of increasing jamming along the bloc, the EU will deploy satellites to prevent such attacks.
Jamming and spoofing harms our air, maritime, and transport economies. Our EU Galileo space project can help. We already provide authentication service to detect spoofing. We will increase satellites in low Earth orbit for robustness, and we will enhance interference detection.
Due to interference actions, Estonia has already reported that Russian jamming operations cause at least 500,000 euro in damages.
Just the fact that we're talking about an incident like that confirms that they have succeeded, because they have done something to make us less certain, to doubt our security.
Meanwhile, 13 of the most affected EU countries have called on the European Union to take urgent action against GPS interference, including a demand for more spending on cybersecurity countermeasures.
Ukrainian officials say they've destroyed 2 helicopters in Crimea after a series of overnight strikes on the Russian-occupied peninsula. It comes amid reports that Brussels is drawing up, quote, precise plans to send post-ceasefire troops to the country. Let's go live to Kyiv now, where our correspondent Oz Kadiji is standing by. Good evening, Oz. So what more can you tell us?
Well, this was information released and footage indeed released by Ukraine's military intelligence, the HUR, showing 2 Russian Mi-8 helicopters being targeted in the Russian-occupied Crimean peninsula. There was also reports coming from Ukraine's special forces that they destroyed an S-300 air defense system, also in Crimea, as well as a tugboat, a military tugboat was targeted. So another significant Ukrainian attack on Crimea, but quite importantly, targeting air defense systems. Ukraine has been targeting Russian military air defense systems quite deep into Russian territory. This has been a campaign over the last few months. Ukraine has also recently shown that it's started producing a domestically made cruise missile capable of striking deep in Russia. So we are seeing a strategy here from the Ukrainians. Now, on the Russian side, we've also heard from the Ukrainian military that they believe Russia is planning an offensive in the Seversk region of Donetsk. So worrying signs there as Russia continues to try and take more ground in the east of the country. Valery Gerasimov, Russia's chief of the general staff, was also giving a briefing, and footage of him on Russian state media aired. There was a map in the background showing Russia planning to take Odessa as well in their plans in the military operations briefing room. So the Ukrainians are obviously taking these matters very seriously and insisting to their Western partners that they demonstrate that these actions by the Russians show they are not interested in peace. So the Ukrainians are trying to move forward. President Zelensky has spoken with the NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte tonight and released a statement saying that this autumn Ukraine needs to do everything possible to strengthen its positions. Back to you, Aaron.
Oz Kadagi in Kyiv, thank you. Momentum for the Polish economy, with the country's GDP rising by 3.4% compared to a year ago, fuelled by robust consumer spending. The reading underscores Poland's position as an economic outperformer in the region, though falling investment and a rising budget deficit remain causes for concern. Consumer spending was the biggest driver of growth, as household expenditure surged by 4.4%. On the flip side, investment dropped by 1%, with a negative impact on foreign trade as imports exceeded exports. A flotilla carrying aid to the Israeli-blocked Gaza Strip has been forced to turn back due to poor weather and strong winds. It remains unclear when the boat, which includes a group of Poles, will be able to depart from Barcelona again. Diana Skyer spoke exclusively to a member of the Polish camp.
This major international flotilla bound for Gaza has been forced back to Barcelona. Dozens of boats aiming to deliver humanitarian aid to the enclave set sail on Sunday, but strong waves and winds forced the fleet to return. Food, medicine, clothing, all of these basic essentials are what activists are planning to deliver to the war-torn Strip. And to challenge Israel's latest offensive on Gaza City, 40 countries are participating in the Global Summit Flotilla. Among them is a delegation of 10 activists from Poland. TVP World reached out to one of them.
Due to safety reasons, we were forced to delay our departure, and we will sail when it will be safe to sail, because the safety is our priority. We want to break the siege of Gaza, which is, the siege is illegal. Israel is breaking the international law, and we want to deliver humanitarian help to people in Gaza.
Polish organizers have submitted letters to the president, prime minister, and parliamentary leaders requesting diplomatic support for a ceasefire, but also in case the mission faces obstacles.
We believe that political pressure from our government can force Israel to stop its illegal actions and allow us to bring the humanitarian aid.
As it did back in June, when well-known activist Greta Thunberg was deported by the Israeli Navy after attempting a similar mission. But that didn't stop her from trying again.
We are aware of many possibilities. We are aware that Israeli occupying forces will try to do everything they can to stop us.
The shores of the Mediterranean are quite unpredictable. Despite the setback, the humanitarian mission is expected to resume soon. For TVP World, I'm Diana Skaya.
In Poland, the 1st of September traditionally marks the beginning of the school year. And for many Ukrainian children returning after the summer break, it's a day filled with hopes, with dreams, and with anxieties. Carolina Shapland reports.
On the eve of the new school year, some children are preparing their backpacks for the lessons ahead. Others are savouring their last hours of freedom. And some are spending precious moments with friends. But all of them are thinking about the challenges that lie ahead. This is Nazar from Vinnytsia in Ukraine. A gifted 10-year-old mathematician, he's been awarded a scholarship at his Warsaw school in recognition of his outstanding grades.
My passions are football, math, English.
Brothers Yevgeny, age 13, and Bogdan, his youngest sibling, are from Crimea.
I am happy because I can see again my friends. We can play volleyball and also we can speak and chatting on lessons.
And Agata, who arrived in Warsaw with her mother, a doctor, just after Russia launched its full-scale invasion, is celebrating her 11th birthday.
I'm excited to see my friends. I'm going to meet new teachers and learn something new. I hope this year is going to be a good one.
But their excitement is tempered by recent political uncertainty. Poland's President Karol Nawrocki has vetoed legislation that would have extended support for Ukrainian citizens. The move has already caused a great deal of anxiety among families.
It's been a very unsettling week. Since Monday, when we received news from the presidential palace that the Ukrainian law would be vetoed, we've had far more calls than usual to the foundation, and almost everyone is asking the same thing. Should I start preparing to leave Poland? The overriding concern for Ukrainians right now is the legality of their stay.
Yet young Bogdan says he's still enjoying life at his Polish school.
Since school started, almost nobody's been mean to me here. I feel better in Poland than in Ukraine.
Agata is thinking about her academic career.
I'm afraid about getting poor grades. That's about it.
For Nazar, however, despite his academic successes, daily school life remains a challenge.
They keep picking on me all the time. They say I should go back to Ukraine. Why did we even come here? I tell the teachers, but they don't do anything about it. I don't like going to school because they call me names every day.
For now, these children are heading back to the classroom with optimism. But for the wider Ukrainian community in Poland, the new school year brings uncertainty and anxiety.
All of this happened just a week before the first day of school. Families thought everything was secure, that their children would be able to go to school. Now, it's having a serious impact on people's mental well-being, made worse by a wave of online hate.
For TVP World, I'm Karolina Shapland.
Arms dealer and manufacturer Michal Stranad has become the richest person in the Czech Republic. That's according to Czech Business Weekly Euro. The billionaire's wealth has more than quintupled this year, owing to the rising profile of the defence industry. Jakub Kapiszewski has more.
Europe is arming itself to the teeth, and the effects of these efforts can be spotted on the list of wealthiest Czechs. Michal Strand has topped the list of Czech billionaires, with a net worth estimated around 13.5 billion euros. He is the chairman of the board and owner of the Czechoslovak Group, the biggest defence company in the country. Also known as CSG, the company is the fourth largest ammunition producer in the EU and the manufacturer of a wide range of military vehicles, from personnel carriers to artillery systems. Strand, who is 33 years old, inherited CSG from his father in 2018, who founded it in 1995. Last year's winner, Daniel Kretinsky, fell to third place. Kretinsky is the chairman and co-owner of EPH, an energy company with coal assets in the Czech Republic, Germany, Italy and other countries. Strand also pushed Renata Kellerova and her family to second place this year. Kellerova owns PPF Group, the biggest investment firm in the Czech Republic, which was founded by her husband Petr Keller, who died in 2021 in a helicopter crash in Alaska.
We return now to Ukraine and the latest developments on the front line. Joining me for more is Michael McKay, former lecturer at the University of Kyiv Moyla Academy. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So how do you read the fight on the front right now? What's the current state of play, and can Russia really afford another offensive?
Well, Russia cannot afford another offensive, but that has not stopped them from mounting them. They are willing to take losses that would be unacceptable in any other country. But the state of the front now, if we look at the battle line, is in an important sense largely the same as it was in the spring. We now have the end of the summer offensive. It is the first day of autumn. And we can say that the summer offensive of the Russians was a failure. They did not achieve any of their major objectives. They did not capture any major cities. The front only moved a small amount in their favor, and they took tremendous casualties in doing this. So if we look at the situation on the battlefront, it is the summer offensive this year was as hopeless and as doomed as the one last year. The Russians have fewer men and they have practically none of the equipment that they had a year ago. That doesn't mean they're not going to mount another offensive in the fall before the weather makes offensive operations almost impossible. But I think we can say that the Ukrainian defenders have done a miraculous job, tremendous job, and a professional one at bringing about this failure of the Russian summer offensive.
From a military perspective then, what is Vladimir Putin's thinking here? I mean, is Russia's offensive and offensives to come, now all about claiming as much territory as possible before, let's say, a deal is struck, and then Vladimir Putin can say, well, no, this is our land?
No, I don't think it is about territory, because Putin is not a military man. He is a sabotage and disruption agent from the KGB. So he doesn't think in military terms. He demands of his military that they claim to conquer territory, and they do that to curry his favor, but they don't actually do it on the ground. And that's actually not the most important thing to the Russians, because their success is not military. It is not in conquering territory. In fact, that's been a tremendous failure. Their success has been in presenting the propaganda illusion that that Russia can win this war, and to suppress the dawning realization for more and more people that it is in fact a Ukrainian victory that is inevitable and the only way to end this war. So I don't think that the fact that this fall offensive that is coming is doomed is going to affect Putin from mounting it and causing more casualties to his own men.
Do you ever see Vladimir Putin waving the white flag? What does he need to do that? For example, does he need to be able to sell a victory to his people at home in some way, shape or form, that he can go back and say from a potential ceasefire deal that he did win?
I don't think so. I think there's no way back for Putin now, because he has asserted his maximal claims in the propaganda sphere in hopes that people like Trump would come through for him and deliver what he cannot achieve on the battlefield. For example, the total conquest of Donetsk region, for example, which let's not forget, Russia invaded Donetsk region in April 2014, and they still have not conquered all of this one region of Ukraine. So I don't think there's a way that Putin can wave the white flag because of the way he's presented the whole war to the Russian people, but more importantly, to his own power base. I do believe he is in it to the death.
While I have you here, news out today that President Ursula von der Leyen's plane GPS was jammed as she landed in Bulgaria over the weekend. Are these Russia's hybrid tactics, its hybrid war with the West, in practice at play?
Yes. And I think I object to the word hybrid. I understand that people are making a distinction from kinetic warfare. They did not shoot a missile at Madame von der Leyen's aircraft. But people should understand that hybrid war is war, and that this was an act of war against the European Union. Now, Putin knows that, And I think people that are realists know that too. But what he's gambling is that since the European Union doesn't have an army, that this is a soft target. So he went after the EU, not having a military component, for the same reason he invaded Ukraine, not being in NATO, to drive home the point and to achieve with, as people say, hybrid warfare means. But I think people in the EU should wake up and say, not hide behind that term, but treat this as an act of war by Russia.
And so lastly then, two quick questions. Is Vladimir Putin and Russia at war already with the West? And if this is an attack on Europe, why does that not kick into gear, for example, Article 5, that an attack on one is an attack on all?
I don't understand why it doesn't kick in Article 5, because the peace and security of NATO members is being directly threatened, and they should be a call to action. Is Russia at war with the West? Yes. Russia has been saying that their war against Ukraine is in fact a war against what they call the collective West. So they've been saying that all along, and they've been actually acting on it by doing a combination of kinetic warfare in Ukraine and hybrid warfare in other countries. It's all one war to the Russians. So whether we recognize it or not, it is a fact that Russia is at war with the West, and that means NATO.
Michael Mackay, former lecturer at the University of Kyiv Mohyla Academy, thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you very much.
And that's all for World News Tonight. Do stay with us here on TVP World. I'm Aaron Darman. Goodbye for now.